Low black racial self esteem is keeping white racial self esteem high in this country. That is contentious. I'm okay with saying that and standing on it. And I know there are going to be white and black people who call into question my blackness because I am a black biracial woman. But I do know low racial self esteem up close and personal because my black father had the lowest racial self esteem I've ever seen. And I've been estranged from my family for the better part of a decade, mostly in part because I was constantly met with violence for calling into question my father's anti blackness, his misogynoir, his self hatred, and his low racial self esteem.
It sounds like her father was a conservative black Christian. A lot of African American people are Christians, but some of them are Christian and they identify as Republican for whatever reason. It could be because he's married to someone of another race, or it could not be. It could be because, they believe that capitulating to what the dominant caste system says is going to save them. But we've seen over the 400 years, history tells us that it does not. And, a lot of you guys know enough black history to understand how the caste system works. And so for me, being born in the late 60s, hi everybody, this is Princess Ariel, and my story time. When I was born in the late 60s in Arkansas, we had an aunt that lived near the border of Arkansas in Texas in an area called Prescott, Arkansas. And whenever we would go there, I remember being a little bitty kid, like not even 6 or 7, I think. And in the little town, there was like a swimming pool. There wasn't very much there. It was like a hole in the wall. It was very rural. And that was the only thing that we could see that we really wanted to do was go swim in that swimming pool. But there was a sign on it that said for whites only. And then when I asked my mom why we couldn't go swim over there, she said she had to explain to me that because of my skin color, we're not allowed to go into that area. We weren't even allowed to be going anywhere near that. So we had to play in my aunt's yard. And I remember crying and being upset because it was, something against the color of my skin. And that was my first introduction to the caste system and how being a dark skinned child, even then, there were limitations on what restaurants we could go to, places we could eat. Like in the 70s, you're just barely coming out of all that. And so here we are again. So I always tell young people, have some grace for what your parents have endured, because if you don't know their stories and know what they've been through in their lives, that might have a lot to do with the way that they vote. And we've seen, how we've been divided by our religious beliefs and our faith with, intersectionality, I guess is the word y'all use, and gender and all the things that are going on with that. Being a part of the community of alphabet people, we deal with so much, but at hand we still are African American at the end of the day, and we still are a part of our ancestors. We should not be thrown away because of that, but religion plays a part into that as well. Um, and that's all. I just want to share that story with you guys, and that we are not afraid, and I don't think black people are scared. I think some people do have empathy in their hearts for those people losing their lives, regardless if they have hatred in their heart towards you. That comes from that Bible that was handed down to us, the slave Bible. So a lot of people still cling onto the slave Bible for redemption. They show redemption to those people who hate them. But the Bible also, that slave Bible also teaches you to have, you know, empathy for evildoers. It doesn't mean that you embrace Satan and become him, which a lot of people do when they throw their kids away for being gay, or throw their kids away because they're too dark, or whatever weird shit black people do. But at the end of the day, I do believe that the majority of African American are very much aware of the current administration and what they're up to, and they keep saying, "Leave us alone, leave us alone." Well, the ancestors are saying, "Leave us alone" too. So if I were this young lady who's posted this very deep, heartfelt story of her life with her parents and everything, and show her some grace as well, that she needs to get more in touch with Black history and cling on to the ancestors, because the ancestors are the answer to everything. And nobody's really afraid. We're just living our lives and moving accordingly, and stuff is still going on and it will go on. We don't want to witness a civil war because I really don't believe that the people who are in this administration are ready to handle that kind of thing. They say they are, but I don't believe that, just from the school shootings and stuff that are going on, and the current situation with CK, seeing how the college kids were running and crying and panicked and having whole meltdowns on the internet. I said, well, that doesn't give me the indication that those people are ready for civil war. But you keep hearing the drumbeat of the ancestors saying, leave us alone. And that's all I can leave you with is leave us the hell alone. Otherwise, sometimes when you come knocking, you get what you ask for. And that's just what it is. You don't want to hear from the messenger because of the way the messenger looks. Dark skin, thick, LGBTQ. You don't want to hear from me. But I know what my parents told me and taught me from way back then with whites only sign. That it's stuck with me my whole entire life. I never forgot that. And as I encounter other people who look like me, that are dark skinned, that are your age, the younger generation, and they flick the TikTok off when they don't want to do the battles and stuff with me because they don't like the way I look. They don't like that I wrap my hair. They don't like the way I look. They don't like my body size. They don't like the way my voice sounds. It's not the message. Always remember it's the messenger. And the caste system works both ways. It works on us as dark-skinned people, keeping us locked in bondage, and it works on those other people over there, the CKs of the world, who think that somebody's taking something from them just by existing and by skin color and skin type. So always remember the caste system. If you don't know what the caste system is, you might want to go ask ChatGPT. I had a whole little rundown with ChatGPT updating me on caste, or watch that movie called Caste. No, it was called Origins. It's called Origins. Go watch Origins. It's all about the caste system from here to all across the world, and how caste holds people of color in bondage and how it works to oppress people. But it's an all made up construct. It doesn't. Caste don't have nothing to do with nothing other than holding African people back and keeping them in poverty and bleeding to death and all this kind of stuff. So it is what it is. That's all, and I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Go back and watch the young lady's video. I think it's very insightful. It is heartbreaking to hear her story, and we send love to her and wish her well and hope there's healing for her and her family down the road, because we're not wishing for any of our people to stay in bondage. Gotta go. Bye.